I'm Mason Mount. You're listening to the London is Blue podcast.
All right, Chelsea fans, welcome back to another episode of the London is Blue podcast. Your host is always Brandon, joining me Nick and Dan to round it out. And we've got another guest, first-time guest, super excited. Olivia, who we've been following for quite a while, presenter on the Premier League TV and a lot of things they do, and recently working with Chelsea as well. So we're super excited to have you on, Olivia. Welcome to the podcast.
Oh, thank you very much. I'm so excited because we've had this in the pipeline for a little bit, haven't we? So it's nice to actually finally do it.
It turns out when the world slows down, Nick, we're able to get more things in and schedule opens up. And I mean, look at this. I've been on for weeks at this point.
Yeah, I know you're back to being a regular, which is nice. No, we definitely have had a little bit more runway to get this planned, but are excited to try out, our new format with Olivia to make sure that still works properly. But I think we have a little bit to talk about, which is a nice kickstart to maybe getting back to normal.
Yep. So that's the plan. 3 episodes, a bit short of this week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Be on the look for it. But this is what we do. We jump right in and get into it. So first one, we have some contracts that we can talk about, re-signed and newly signed. So the first one we can jump into, Dan, is Tino Anjorin. 5 more years for the youngster who just made his Premier League debut and League Cup debut earlier this season. He's a teenager. He's a monster coming out of the academy. That pipeline looks as strong as ever.
Yeah, when we were over, when it feels like ages ago, but actually it was September of this past year, and saw him in training, he absolutely looked just dominant at the age of 18 with no issue compared to some of the other first team players in Chelsea. So now until 2025, which is crazy to think about, we're going to have him tied into the club. Obviously, Frank doing a huge bit of showing a pathway and showing a runway to young players that they have an opportunity to make that transition into the team, Olivia. And I think we owe a lot of the reason that Tino wants to stay to Frank in this regard.
We definitely do. I mean, even looking back sort of at the start of this season, and you think how many players wouldn't have got the chance had Frank Lampard not have come in. You look at, I think Reece James is an exception because I think he would have got a chance wherever because he's that good. But you just look at sort of that group, and we've seen it because in the past, however many years, how many academy products have broken into that first team? Not very many. So it is largely down to Frank Lampard. But I really, really enjoyed Anjorin's little cameo against Everton. I love the confidence in him. He came on and tried a shot from about 25 yards. It nearly went out of Stamford Bridge. But that, you know what I mean? It was nice to see him come on and be like, have confidence in himself. And I really enjoyed the way he was on the ball. We could have had a goal, couldn't he? It was a really, really good tackle by Sadiba in the end. But no, I really enjoyed it. And as with everyone else, I'm so excited to see how he breaks in and whether he can properly sort of break in the next few. Well, I say if Premier League football comes back, but in the next couple of seasons or so, definitely.
My first thought, Brandon, when you mentioned 2025 was like, hey, we might be playing Premier League football by then. We may be back. No, I mean, like Dan said, we watched him in training, and then we watched him against who was it? Grimsby Town, right?
Yep.
And I guess whereas Billy Gilmore is maybe a little bit more smooth on the ball and can just turn people like crazy, Anjorin is an absolute tank. Like, he was able to body kind of more seasoned professionals, even at a lower level, very easily. He was able to kind of glide through, a little bit Ruben-esque to me, just kind of glide through the levels. And he just looks, one, like a really great athlete, and I think 2, very technically dialed in. And that's great. Obviously, wish he would have scored that goal, like Olivia said, at the end, which seemed like it was just an open net waiting for him to enter with the ball. But I think for a guy like Anjorin, who is still probably a ways off of becoming like a Mason Mount, like a regular type of player, this shows that he has patience and trust in the system to me, Brandon, and that is huge because he's seen the pathway kind of cleared. Now he just has to go and beat the likes of Mason Mount and Ruben Loftus-Cheek and all these other kind of star-studded youth players who are looking to get a shot as well.
So he has been with the club since the U7 level. And, you know, if you look at Chelsea Youth's conversation about Tino, he's clearly, to your point, Nick, ahead of the youth game. So, like, he scores, and this is back in September, October, November, scored against the U18s, scored in the U18s, scored in the U18s, scored with the U19s, scored with the U23s, had a goal and 2 assists against Plymouth, scored against the U23s and the 18s. And those are all consecutive matches. So he went 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 matches with 8 goals and 2 assists. Clearly, he is physically dominant. If you look at his highlights, he's literally a man amongst boys. And so this is the right move. He needs to see where can he fall in this line with the first team players, because physically he is a grown man. But technically, mentally, emotionally, these are the things that he's going to have to learn and catch up to. So I'm thrilled that he's able to have that opportunity. And like you said, having Frank there, it's been well documented in the past that the first team managers wouldn't even go across the street at Cobham to the youth setup. Now that has been completely open and the traffic flow is back on. So really excited to see that for Tino.
Well, and here's the other reality. The other reality is, depending upon what can or can't happen in a transfer window this summer, his opportunity, his time to shine in the first team might be way sooner than we think, given the state of global football. And so I think he's coming up at the right time, went on a bit of a tear. And so if he can refine that form in the first team, it's just going to be skyway for him to kind of keep on moving forward and moving ahead.
And what a weapon! Like, honestly, dude he's built like a Mack truck. I mean, he has the ability to glide effortlessly past players. He can go through them if he needs to. Like, this is not like a little kid who's like maybe going to get a chance. I mean, it's a grown man, Olivia, who I think, you know, in terms of body build is more Ruben than more like a cross between Ruben and Ross, which is terrifying if you want to think about it that way, than any other player that we have. So it's not like he's not ready for the physicality of the Premier League.
He's definitely ready for that. I think we saw that he did not look out of place one little bit when he came on. Even physically he didn't look out of place. He was bigger than most of the Everton players, but I think even everything else as well, like on the ball, I thought he showed little glimpses that, you know, that proves he could break in sooner than we think. And yeah, we obviously don't know what's going to happen with this transfer window, but I know obviously he is a striker, isn't he? So we've been sort of crying out. Yeah, we've had Tammy and Giroud, and I've really enjoyed those two and how they've been. But we need another striker. We do. And if he gets time, if Frank Lampard gives him time and gives him the sort of just little minutes here and there, then that could end up turn out being absolutely great for us.
Yeah, I think he plays a little bit like in the 10, very advanced to your point. It's because he can just body those kid defenders off. So it'll be interesting to see kind of where he settles within the team. We definitely need more offensive power, Olivia. The professional you are, because the next person we're talking about is World Cup winner Olivier Giroud. 3 months ago, on his way to Inter Milan, signed, sealed, delivered, allegedly photos of him at the airport. Hey, Nick, beer game strong. You know what I'm saying? So allegedly, club haven't confirmed, but pretty much every other outlet has, including our friend Nisar can select goal.com. Un mas año with Olivier Giroud. And I know that's not French, but I can't speak French, so that's all you get.
Give it your best, you know. I think that's all that counts. Brandon, I see you've shaved your beard, which is disappointing for a lot of reasons.
Had a work thing.
Okay. Had a work thing, sure.
Yeah.
A work suit.
I did have a work thing.
I mean, like we mentioned this a couple weeks ago when it looked like it was likely, Olivia, and to me, I'm really proud of the way that Giroud has kind of handled himself throughout this entire year. Obviously, couldn't have been easy for him at the beginning, and then he goes from 0 to 100 in terms of minutes, within a couple of weeks in February, and it's kind of proven himself to not only have the right mentality, but also just to be a pretty savvy type of veteran character in the locker room. We talked to Pat Nevin last week, who I'm sure you know and love, and he was kind of talking about the mentality that you have to be frozen out, quote unquote, and then go to basically playing every game. And it's not for the weak.
I think it was such a frustrating situation, wasn't it? Because most of us were sitting there going, as much as we love Frank Lampard and we all trust his decisions, that was the one thing that was really difficult to take, because he's a striker that offers you something completely different to what your normal number 9 would offer you. And I always thought, I don't expect him to start for Chelsea. I don't think he expects to start every single game when you've got someone like Tammy Abraham, who's been brilliant this season. But to then not be brought on must have been so frustrating for him. And it was frustrating for us all, because he's exactly the sort of player you want to bring on with 20, 25 minutes to go if you need a goal. And we finally got someone in Reece James that can cross the ball. So it's almost perfect. If you bring on Olivier Giroud, you're guaranteed balls are going to come into the box, and actually half decent ones as well. But he's been, honestly, when he first came, I had no doubt that he was going to be brilliant. Because he's a World Cup winner. He scored so many Premier League goals. He's proven. And I'm so glad that he did prove Frank Lampard wrong, because the season he was being brought on, we could have done with him. Obviously, you don't know what could have happened, but he might have scored a few goals for us. He's proved it now that he did score some big goals for us as well. He hasn't lost it, and I'm so glad we've apparently exercised that one year contract, because he deserves it. He really, really does.
Yeah, it was.
Go ahead, Dan.
Well, I was going to say that ultimately the thing too is if we extend the contract a year, it also gives us the opportunity through basically the beginning of a winter transfer window to make a move with Giroud too. So gives us the opportunity as a stopgap, gives us an opportunity to at least shore up a little bit of the future for what's going to ultimately be a transition, right? Because he's maybe got one more year for us here. And so that gives maybe another youngster an opportunity to come up into the team, gives us an opportunity to scout and find that complementary player to kind of pair with Tammy. And really, I think in my mind, puts into question more like what happens with Mishi heading into next season. I think that probably has to give him a big question mark when he sees Olivier Giroud on the other side of 30 getting this opportunity to continue at Chelsea for another season. When, look, Olivier Giroud last season couldn't score in England, and now we can't stop him from scoring in England. So, I love it. I think he's been a model professional. I think he gives us something else, and I will always love him for the "Thank you, Arsenal" hopping onto the bus. I just, he's blue and blue. You come to Chelsea from Arsenal to win trophies, and hopefully we can get him a few more before he leaves.
Yes.
Yeah. So again, I am a massive fan of Frank and what he's done, but I think if we're being objective, having Giroud at third in this pecking order for strikers at the beginning of the season was probably a mistake on his part. I think he was probably thinking he wanted to play more free-flowing type of football, and so Mishi is more mobile, versus we know Giroud, get it in the box, put it up high, he'll put the meaty French forehead up there and smash it home. And so I think that once, because Mishi was getting kind of the crumbs of the minutes at the beginning of the season, he was doing okay. We saw some high sides, and then it kind of just leveled off. Giroud came in, and you could see he was poised. He was confident, which was a surprise because a striker is a confidence position, and he'd really been frozen out, not even in matchday squads. And so to you guys' point, for him to come in as a professional, to stay sharp, to stay fit, to stay ready to go, I think just speaks volumes of him. And again, no dig on Lampard. He's figuring the whole squad out. But that objectively is just one of the things that he slipped up a little bit. Thankfully, it didn't really cost us at the beginning of the season. So glad he got it figured out as we were starting to, hit a little bit of trouble. Tammy injuries, putting Giroud in was definitely the right call, and he did it. To your point, Dan, it looks like Mishi's contract expires at the end of June 2021. So he is also, on that downhill as well. You're probably going to have to look at extending or moving him because of the whole, why would you lose him for free if you don't have to? It's I think overall Chelsea fans are happy to have Olivier Giroud. He gives us a sense of safety. Like he's a security blanket, knowing that we've got him in the squad and around the players. We're like, okay, he's a good guy to have. Literally won everything. Experienced, an absolute professional. So yeah, from my standpoint, it was an easy call for the club if it is true.
We've also played some of our best football over the last 18 months with him in the squad, though. And I think that's a key thing that people forget, because maybe he's not the one kind of finishing all the opportunities, but the way that he was able to combine with Eden Hazard last year, especially in Europe, was astounding at times. Like, he's able to bring people into play, especially young players. You think about your Callum Hudson-Odois and your Christian Pulisic and people that can actually get in behind defenders, which we haven't had for quite some time. Like, he's a guy that's going to help do that. And so I think it just makes sense, even if for one more year, to give him one more shot at some either Premier League or European glory, that he definitely deserves it.
All right. Well, the last one we have on the docket today is Hakim Ziyech. I have not read the phonetic pronunciation quite yet. So he had some quotes about being on his way to London. Dan, do you want to knock some of these out?
Well, I guess the important thing to say is, so he's played his last game for his current team, his current side.
But they're still training. Did you see those photos?
Got to keep him in game fitness.
They're training in rubber gloves.
He could do it at home potentially, but anyway, he did say, Ziyech said, there are a lot of talented youngsters, which puts me in a position I'm used to after the last 3.5 years at Ajax. Just do well. Chelsea has a coach who loves attacking, attractive football, and Frank Lampard. I feel the same way, as Nick would say, also true. And then we've had some good talks. Lampard is really calm and presented himself well. We immediately felt a connection, which also convinced me to make this decision. And I think I saw quotes from his agent on top of this that mentioned that he had racked up a major amount of frequent flyer miles, and probably meals too, because of the amount of travel that he was putting together to get Ziyech a deal in January, Olivia. So I know it's going to be neat to know that his next game is going to be in Chelsea blue in some shape or form.
It's so exciting because I think this sort of came out of the blue a little bit. Like I didn't really, it wasn't much about it. You didn't hear much about it, and all of a sudden he signed, and for a 35 million or whatever it was, it's an absolute bargain in this sort of day and age. But I mean, I'm not going to sit here and pretend that I've watched every Ajax game for the past 3.5 years that he's been there, because I definitely haven't. But
just the Spurs ones.
Just the Champions League ones. But genuinely, those Champions League games, even against us, that left foot is something that not a lot of players have. He reminded me of a sort of Mata style player. I think he's got more. I do think he has more to his game than Mata does. But that sort of technical ability with that left foot is absolutely. I mean, we saw it. The goal for the header that they scored, that he put that ball in, and I was just. And the goal he scored actually was absolutely ridiculous. And I'm so excited. I think he's going to complement our other players really well, because they're not the same sort of players. He offers something different. And I'm really, really excited to see sort of how he fits in and where he fits in, because I think we have a lot of good attacking players, but that's the one area that we need to bulk up, especially with Willian and Pedro and the uncertainty sort of surrounding them as well. So I'm really looking forward to seeing him play at Stamford Bridge. I'm really looking forward to it.
It's interesting, and I think you made a really good point, Olivia, that this was not a person that was bantered about with any sort of transfer rumors from anybody. Like it makes me wonder if the club is now in the business of putting up smoke screens for other players when they're really going after like a very specific target. So all the cool volley nonsense that you've seen the last 2 days, like what is that a smoke screen for? Like who are they actually going after? So that makes a lot of sense to me. And I think that's probably a good way to do business, because if clubs know that you're interested in their players, like the price goes up immediately, especially for Chelsea.
I think it's especially if you're English as well. I think when players come to the Premier League, suddenly their fee is 50 million more than it would have been if they were going to Spain or Germany or something like that, which is really strange. But I think I'd rather the club do it like that. I'd rather them all these rumours come out and they're actually going after someone completely different. Because the one thing I cannot stand is going on Twitter and seeing Chelsea fan after Chelsea fan after Chelsea fan arguing about who they think's good, who they think's bad, who they think we're going to sign. I just don't get involved in it. Honestly, since football stopped, I found myself not really tweeting very much, because when it's just transfer rumours that really you can talk about, it just really, really gets to me for some reason. So I just try and stay out of it. But I hope the club do that going forward, because I think that just works best.
Well, we used to do a lot more, Dan. We used to do a lot more transfer stuff, and then it became so obvious that no one knew what they were talking about, that it was just like, man, well, this is dumb. Like, why are we doing this?
Well, it needs to be more like the Fabregas and Costa style transfers, where we just pull it off under the complete cloak of darkness. It's like, surprise, we got new players and they're great. Like that is the type of signings. That's how we need to kind of execute business kind of moving forward.
That summer was special. That summer was. When I look back on signings, that summer was absolutely ridiculous. Oh, we need to get back to that, don't we?
Yeah, that is the way we should always be conducting business. And it feels like with Ziyech, that is the start of potentially maybe a different way of executing our business, is going in, being decisive. I think anytime, though, we're linked to a big name, there's just going to be months of stories. So if you're linked to a Sancho, if you're linked to anyone of any renown, it's just going to be a nightmare. So hopefully all of the maybe just below that type of tier of player, we can execute some pretty kind of quick and just, lightning strike signings on them. And then, with one big splash, we're just going to have to accept that there's going to be months and months of articles and stories.
A couple points here. So Ziyech, it sounds like, was heavily scouted and tracked by the club, and this was not an impulse purchase. And I think that's one of the points that you all are trying to make about the club as well, is that this isn't a deadline day panic buy, right? This is now the second signing, the first one being Christian Pulisic, who we signed and loaned back. So that was a long-term signing when we did that. This same thing, we signed him a week after the January window closed. And again, the club were saying we can get him for a better fee a week later than in January. We want him now, but we don't need him now. As your point, we do still have Willian and Pedro. But we know that we want him for the long term. He fits our profile. His statistics are out of this world. So this is how we're going to approach it. And again, there's nothing better that most fans love than sensible transfer business, because it is, as we watch, I'm sure we all watched season 2 of Sunderland Till I Die. They came in and said, it's a business. Like, we're not going to overspend. His first transfer window goes, I want a signing that makes me feel alive. And you go, well, there goes that budget. And they did. They broke the bank, and they still didn't go up after they picked up their striker. And so it's so easy to get sucked up into it. And obviously every fan wants their team to be the best, but there is a method to it. There has to be a strategy. There has to be some thought going behind it. Especially in the days of FFP, which apparently UEFA are starting to take serious if this Man City ban holds up, and things like that. But overall, that is the most realistic transfer update that we can give you at this point without any football. So let us know what you guys think. All right, we've got Tino Anjorin signing a 5-year extension. Widely reported Olivier Giroud signed a 1-year extension. And then obviously Ziyech on his way to London sooner rather than later. Let us know what you think, obviously. Olivia, thank you for joining us. You'll be here for part 2 and part 3. Her link's in the description. Go tell her thank you that she joined and that you appreciate it. But we do enjoy having you on the show. But until next time, Chelsea fans, you know what to do. Keep the blue flag flying high.